Magnus Carlsen went into the final round of Tata Steel Masters a full point behind the leader, Nordirbek Abdusattorov. So Magnus had to win to have any chance of getting first to second. He was facing Arjun Erigasi, a young talent from India. Let's see how Magnus played this game when faced with a must-win situation. Magnus actually goes in for the kill. He goes for a King's Indian style attack and launches it on the White King. Let's see how he did. Knight f3, knight f6. Reti, it started with Reti, and then g3, King's Indian attack. b6, bishop g2, bishop b7. Castles and g6. So now it's becoming King's Indian defense. Bishop g7, where white gets the center, but black will get kingside play. And it's very risky for black, but also leads to thrilling positions. Usually we do this when we are in a must-win game where we have to take risk. Knight a6, knight c3, knight c5, knight d4, e5, knight c2, a5, d3, and d6. e4, bishop c8. The bishop is of no use over there. He brings it back to c8. Knight a3 and knight e8. Now the world champion is going to show you how well he can play attacking chess as well. How well he can play King's Indian defense style attack as well. Knight b5, white is going for counterplay on the queen side, and black is creating things on the king side. Bishop d7, it has not started yet, but he's preparing f5. Is Magnus Carlsen, and he plays it. f3, and now f4. a3, he should have gone for this a3 move instead of f3. This would have been faster counterplay for white, but now Carlsen is better. g5, b4, knight b7. g4, trying to close out the king side, but of course h5 pawn break comes. h3, and now rook f7. A nice rook lift, a very common idea in the King's Indian. We just want to bring the rook to the h file, and then the queen. And then the knight also jumps in after the queen moves. This style of attack is very common in the King's Indian. Now king f2, getting out of there quickly, bishop f8, rook g1, and rook h7. Preparing to open up the h file. Bishop f1, knight f6. If pawn takes pawn now, just rook takes back and h file is open, things would be great. King e1 and queen c8. Rook b2, knight d8. This knight is also jumping into the action. Queen d3. So black has firmly taken control. It's a great position for Magnus Carlsen to play with. King d1, he's taking refuge in the queen side. But bishop e7, king c2, takes. But even on the queen side, there is no shadow. The king is still not safe. Now just takes, and rook a1, not allowing the king to reach his final resting place. Rook b1, rook check, rook blocks, takes, and takes. He exchanges of both pairs of rooks and still is better. Magnus Carlsen's idea is he is going to sacrifice a piece for two pass pawns. He is taking a tremendous amount of risk. It is actually a sound sacrifice because practically there is good chance for black. And even technically, black is slightly better. Bishop takes two pawns, that two pass pawns, and pieces coming in along with them. Bishop f3 and bishop h3. Bishop h5, g4. The pawn starts rolling. Knight e2, bishop f1. It's very important not to push the pawn too early. Then your pawns are completely blocked. Don't want that, right? So queen d1, bishop goes back. Bishop g6 and knight g5. Now the pawns get help. Knight c3 and bishop f3. Queen moves. King g7, attacking bishop f5, but just queen h8. The queen is all ready to jump in. And once that happens, things will be great for black. He's fully in control. So here Arjun decides, let me give back the piece. But even after you give back the piece, material is equal, but black's pieces are much better and black's king is much better than the white king. Things are not okay. Especially this bishop is spitting fire along this diagonal. Queen c1, now knight f7. Knight b5, queen jumps back to the a file. Of course, if you take, then you will be in trouble because of queen check and then king moves, queen check. It's mate. Pawn d4, stopping the bishop, but then pawn takes. And then bishop goes back, knight d6, No, he gives a check first and then takes, and now bishop g5. So white is trying to exchange of as many pieces as possible so that his king is finally safe. But then queen h8. If bishop takes, just queen takes back and the pass pawn should be good. Bishop goes back and pawn e4. The dragon roars again along this diagonal. Here bishop takes b6. Now white also has a pass pawn, but the queen jumps in. Queen h2, threatening stuff on the king. For example, he's trying to play queen e5. This would be a deadly threat. So opponent came back with the bishop. So queen e5 is good in this position, but Magnus finds something even better, the best move of the engine, and he plays it queen e2, not with that much thought. So the idea is he is threatening queen d3, which would just be great. So he played pawn b5, did Arjun, and then queen d3 happened, and Arjun just resigned because what could happen from here? Queen c2 is possible for white, but then black would just go queen a3, threatening again mate. If queen blocks it, then just queen b4 check. And after king moves, queen check. And it's almost made king b1. We just go queen e1 check, and it is made. There's no surviving this for Arjun Iragesi. So Magnus won this game, but unfortunately he couldn't have any real chance of first or second. He ended up in third position, a tie for second, but because of the better tiebreak, Nodibek, who has defeated Magnus Carlsen in this tournament before, got second, and Magnus got third.